The moment Tang Xiaotang opened the gym door, a familiar sound of the karaoke was lightly greeted, as if we were welcoming an uninvited guest. The indoor pop music rhythm flows smoothly, accompanied by the metal tinglings colliding from the bells, creating a vibrant atmosphere. She looked around curiously, her eyes were bright, and an innocent smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, as if every inch of air was filled with unknown surprise. The gym floor made a quick sound under her feet, and each step seemed to be stepping on a shaped rhythm. There is a slight fishy smell in the air, which is the unique breath created by sweat and rubber mats, allowing people to feel the primitive power of movement as soon as they are inhaled. She looked at the area full of the equipment and her heartbeat couldn't help but speed up. Away from a distance, a figure is particularly eye-catching, Fei, focusing on guiding other students. His muscles shone slightly under the light, and each line was as intimidating as if they were kissed by the sun. Tang Xiaotang's chest tightened, and an inexplicable palpitation bumped into her heart like a deer. She couldn't help but storm towards the light. The surrounding joggers emit a steady buzz, and the students' conversations and laughter were as light and fast as the background music. She stood beside Gun Fei, her eyes fixed on his arm inadvertently. Innumerable fantasy bubbles appear in the brain, floating like colorful balls, and then fleeting again. She tried to breathe calmly, and found that her heartbeat seemed to have all the noises. "Wow, your muscles look delicious, I really want to bite them on them." Tang Xiaotang was shocked by himself as soon as he said. Her voice was crisp and loud, and it exploded in the gym in an instant. There was a burst of laughter everywhere, and the students' ha-ha and clapping sounds formed, like a sudden celebratory scripture. The flying face suddenly swelled, and the red squirt under the light climbed up the head of the head, and his hands clenched the bell unconsciously. He cleared his throat and tried to maintain a calm indifference. Please don't say it's a gym, not a restaurant." His temperament was stiff, revealing curiosity. His eyes were slightly blinking, as if he was exploring the truth of this girl. Tang Xiaotang was stunned for a moment, and the fantasy bubbles in her brain burst instantly, and her fingers couldn't help but sway the corner of her clothes. She rushed to rescue. "I'm just kidding, but you're really good." Her voice softened a little, but she still couldn't hide the straightforward movement. The students next to them laughed one after another, and the sound of falling bells slamming, as if they were adding a play to this embarrassing drama. Guyan's shoulders froze slightly, and he turned to look at her. His eyes flashed with a softness that was hard to detect, and was quickly covered by that layer of indifference. He coughed slightly and continued to guide other students, as if he wanted to use his work to resolve this sudden embarrassment. Tang Xiaotang realized the strangeness of the atmosphere. She covered her mouth with both hands, her face red like a ripe apple. The whistle sound of the air conditioning fan sounded in her ears, reminding her to retreat like a murmur. She hurriedly took a step back and slid a slight scratch sound on the floor. The panic in her heart came like a tide. She lowered her head and said to herself, "Why am I so moved?" The smiles around her continued, and every smile was like a slight poking her self-esteem. As she turned away, the gym door slammed behind her, and the sound seemed to be planning the next sentence. The slightest bird on the outside came, mixed with the youthful atmosphere of the campus, making her feel fresh. She walked across the door with her red face, and her back gradually blurred in the remote lens. Those sweet words in the brain popped up again, this time with reflection. She was wondering how to ask her roommate for help and how to be less reckless when expressing her feelings next time. The sunlight brought a warmth on her shoulder, which also reminded the endless flow of this small episode. Tang Xiaotang walked along the campus elementary school, stepping on the fallen leaves every step, making a rustling sound. She took a deep breath and carried the morning damp air, trying to calm her chest down like a swell of wavy throbbing. The awkward scene just now was like a group of scattered balls, unable to spin in her chest, which also aroused her dissatisfaction. The sunlight fell through the shadows of the trees, warming her shoulders. She bit her lower lip and speeded up her pace towards the gym. The moment the door was opened, a crisp sound of jingling sound began to greet her like a light overture. In the gym, the sound of the colliding rings and the rhythm of the background music intersected into a vibrant melody. The air is filled with the fishy smell of sweat, mixed with the faint rubber smell of rubber equipment, allowing people to feel the original movement when they breathe. She looked around, and the familiar figure in the crowd made her chest swell. Guard Flying was there, focusing on guiding the student. His figure looked particularly stable under the light. She walked towards the bezel area with her hands and tried to draw a professional look. Holding a pair of calves with your fingers, the icy metal surface conveyed a slight moisture in touch, which was the mark left by sweat. She recalled the posture she taught in Guyane before, raised her hands, and involuntarily made the fantasy in her brain go astray. The bell slid in her palm, and a slight friction sound came out. She murmured, "This thing is like a cone." People around her looked curiously, and a laugh came from the corner, rising lightly like waves. Suddenly, the strength was uneven and the bell slid from her hands. The heavy impact sound exploded on the floor, shaking the entire room slightly. With this, there were a series of locking reactions. The fitness ball on the side was hit and began to jump up, and the puff sound was like the children's laughter. The fitness ball rolled over and knocked over the nearby drinks machine. The water splashed everywhere, and the damp air instantly spread. She screamed, "Ah!" The sound was rumbling in the room, causing hilariousness from the students around her. Their laughter came like a tide, accompanied by the sound of the bell and shouts, "Be careful." She was so embarrassed that the tide flooded her. Tang Xiaotang pulled her waist and slammed her bell, grabbed the metal with her fingers eagerly, and accidentally hit the instrument beside her. The sound of the scraping floor intersecting with her slight moans, she fell heavily to the ground, a stinging pain coming from her knees. The noise in the room was coming one after another, and someone shouted, "Don't panic," and the laughter was not reduced. Her face was burning and she glanced at Guard Flying over the training stand. His steps were steady and powerful, and he stepped on a clear rhythm with each step, like a chaotic beat in peace. He reached out his hand and pulled her up. The rustling sound of clothes rubbing against their arms quietly rose between them, and the close interaction made the air sticky. She raised her head, her eyes softened slightly from her usual indifference, and a slight swayed over his eyebrows like a slight wind. After she stood firm, she hurriedly looked around. The heat from the gym wrapped around her, her rushing as fast as a drum, almost over the background music. She picked up another equipment and tried to continue practicing, her wrist shaking and her calves made a warning sway. Guard seized it in time, preventing another disaster. His fingers touched her hands lightly, bringing a sense of warmth. "Guifei coach, your muscles look so attractive. I really want to bite it on it. Can this practice make me perfect like you?" Her words burst out, her voice breathing, and her eyes flashed with straightforward enthusiasm. She bit her lip, hoping that this sentence would bring a closer distance, like a hidden bridge. Guyan cleared his throat, his voice was low and gentle. "Xiaotang, you will suffer like this. Fitness is not a game, and it will only come out as a cone." His eyes flashed slightly, and he couldn't hide his condom concern, like the sunlight leaking through the gaps in the window. He let go, took a step back, his shoulders relaxed slightly, as if trying to explore this sudden approach. She laughed, although her knees still hurt. "Teacher, I know I'm clumsy, but your concern makes me more motivated. Next time I bring sweets, I'm sure I'm not a toy." With a confident look in her voice, she straightened up and her eyes fixedly met his eyes. The music in the room turned soft, the noise gradually calmed down, leaving only the collision sound of the calves as a companion. Guard flew gently and said, "If you are willing to do anything, don't let anything happen." His temperament was filled with an unavoidable warning, and it was no longer as stiff as before. The lights projected on his face, outlining the delicate balance between fatigue and scent. He turned around and continued to work, his back moving between the instruments, like a tree that was not moving. Tang Xiaotang reflected on her head, and her fighting was still as rapid as a battle. The heat in the gym has subsided, and the sun has fallen out of the window, bringing a fresh breath. She adjusted her posture, took a deep breath of air that smelled of sweat, and decided to give herself a new beginning. When she left, she glanced at the back of Guard Flying, which was stretched out under the light, like a quiet painting. She slapped her lips slightly, touched her backpack with her hand, and a light rubbing sound of candy packaging was emitted from it. The sound was like a secret word, indicating the next adventure. The sweetness of the candy seemed to have appeared on the tip of her tongue, and she thought to herself, she would use another way to gently approach that level of indifference. The geese outside the campus melted into the sunset with her steps as she left. The moment Tang Xiaotang stepped out of the gym, Xiang's rest was like a layer of soft gold foil, covering her shoulders lightly. The candy in the backpack collided with fine crispness, and the sound seemed to be a small and vigorous low-key word in her heart. She bit her lower lip, her eyes flashed through a sparrow, and walked along the campus cushion. The sludge came from the trees far away, accompanied by the fresh air of the grass, making her determined every step. When I opened the dormitory door, a crisp sound of the claw sounded like a light knocking signal. She stepped into the room and threw her backpack onto the bed. The candy wrapper rubbed into a slight rustling sound, as if quietly encouraging her. Roommate Xiaowei was leaning against the bed and sliding her cell phone, and the light of the screen casts blue light on her face. She raised her head, raised her eyebrows, and looked curious. Tang Xiaotang sat down on the bed, took a deep breath of the air in the room, mixed with the freshness of laundry detergent and the sunny fragrance on the outside. Her fingers tapped the edge of the bed, and the rhythm of the knocking was as steady as a heartbeat. "Oh, Xiaowei, do you know?" Her words were erect, and she was breathing, as if she had just finished running for a while. "That flying coach's muscle looks like chocolate, and I really want to bite it down. Although I was so embarrassed when I confessed my love last time, I want to try again." Xiaowei laughed loudly, and the sound was rumbling in the small room, accompanied by the squeaking sound of the bed spring. She slapped the pillow, exclaimed, and slapped the fabric with her palms as light as the wind. "Ha ha ha, Xiaotang, your sweet-spoken skills are wrong again," she said, with a warmth of concern hidden in her tone of talk. "The mussels are delicious. Be careful to be eaten by him as a sweet spot. It's better to take the fitness course to get close to him. Maybe you can have more opportunities instead of laughing every time." Tang Xiaotang pointed his head, and his eyes lit up. She stood up and quickly tidied her clothes. The rustling sound of the friction between the clothes was stirring up in the room, like a small overture of a small change. When pulling the backpack, the slight pulling sound indicates that the action is about to open. She changed into a sportswear, and herself in the lens looked energetic, and the sun shone out of the window, illuminating the silhouette of her determined wheel. "Okay, I'll try it," she said. Her voice was light and fast, with a sense of dissatisfaction. Soon, Tang Xiaotang returned to the gym. As soon as the door opened, a smell of sweat and the pungent fragrance of rubber equipment came over the surface, and the light and quick rhythm of the background music intersected with the low-language buzz of students around them. She took a deep breath and tried to blend into this vibrant atmosphere. The course had begun. She clumsily grabbed a pair of bells, slid her fingers over the ice-cold metal surface, and accidentally used equipment. The bell swayed in her palm, and with the ups and downs of breathing around her, she tried to adjust her posture, making herself trapped. A heavy bang exploded, and the bell fell to the ground, causing the whispers to laugh lightly in the surroundings. Her heartbeat was as rapid as a drum, and her face was filled with heat. "Help!" she yelled, her voice trembling slightly, and she carried a playful tune. As the sound of flying sound came, his steps were steady and powerful, and he stepped on the floor with a clear rhythm. He quickly unzipped the rope, and there was a sliding friction sound during the process, and Tang Xiaotang's shocking voice brushed lightly like a slight rain. "Gui Feizheng, save me!" She gasped, her eyes flashing with a brave light. "I was trapped by this equipment, and I felt like I was slapped by your charm, super sweet disaster." His eyebrows were slightly raised, revealing a touch of playfulness, and his eyes flashed with a long-hidden favor. After unzipping the rope, he helped her up and touched her arm lightly, bringing warmth. "Xiaotang, your brain is widened again." His voice was low, and he was talking, not losing his temper. "Don't think about massaging your muscles first, let me help you untie, and don't let the equipment become your lover." After she stood firm, the two of them met in a short time. The air is filled with the unique atmosphere of the gym, and the light sound of sweat dripping like the end of the background music. She read her face, pursed her lips slightly, trying to cover up the throbbing in her heart. Far away, the loud voices of fitness fellows were clamoring like sharp whistles, and the sunlight fell on them, indicating that more interactions were about to open. Tang Xiaotang adjusted her breathing, and her chest was undulating and down. She glanced at Feng Fei's back, and he turned around and continued the course, his shoulders relaxed slightly, like a tree standing unsteadily. Her thoughts fluctuate like a tide, carrying a new energy. As she walked out of the room, she looked back and the sunset had dyed everything into gold, and the fragrance of the geese and grass returned to her ears. She thought to herself that this time was not just an embarrassing thing, but a bridge leading to a deeper connection. Xiao Wei's words were heard in her brain. "Look, I just said it's useful to participate in the course." She repeated it in her heart, and a smile appeared in her eyes. The candy in the backpack rubs gently, and the sweet and intoxicating fragrance seems to have spread out. Outside the campus, the geese faded away, leaving only her forward steps and expectations for the appointment. A glimpse of humor in the air, like a line of sunlight, illuminating her next adventure. The lights in the classroom came from afar, and she accelerated her pace and was ready to welcome the next chapter. Tang Xiaotang stepped out of the campus cubicle, and the rest of the sun was still beating between the leaves, and her heartbeat had turned into a forward sensation. Looking back, the gym lights were like a savage lamp, calling on her unfinished adventure. She speeded up her pace, her skirt gently brushed across the grass, bringing a touch of joy, and the geese gradually retreated far away, leaving only a faint fragrance in the air. She pushed open the glass door of the gym, and the crisp tingling sound was like a quick question, singing in the empty space. The sunny day's rest comes from the high windows and falls on the floor, turning into a layer of warm gold. Tang Xiaotang took a deep breath of air, mixed with sweat and the faint pungent rubber, and his chest was undulating and down. She looked around and her eyes quickly closed the flying figure. He was tilting his waist to adjust the stent, and the lines of his arms were bulging in the light and shadow. The metal collision sounded like a drum with a bright rhythm, pointing to the vitality around him. The candies in the backpack rubbed lightly, making a slight rustling sound, and Tang Xiaotang felt a surge of excitement on his fingertips. She strode towards the flying, stomping on the fitness pad, trying to cover the inner croaker with her steady breath. Gui Fei training. She opened her mouth, her voice unconsciously lifting, pressing the light and fast melody of the background music. "Your muscles look so attractive, just like marshmallows. I really want to bite it down. This is my sincere way of pursuing you." Gun Fei turned to face her, his eyebrows were swelling, and his hands were lightly put down, making a low striking sound. His eyes flashed with an unexpected surprise and he did not respond immediately. Tang Xiaotang moved closer, pretending to stretch her body, and gently rubbed his sleeves with his arms. The touch of that moment was like electric current, and her heartbeat couldn't help but speed up. The bell rack next to it was scratching sound, and her hand accidentally slid over the metal surface, attracting several gazes around her. In the air, the breath of sweat and the heat of body are quietly intersecting, making the scene a little abrupt. "You always say something ridiculous." Gwen Fei's voice was low, and he was joking with a slight chorus. He knocked on the stent, pointed at the slightest slamming the metal, making a crisp sound, like suppressing the waves in his heart. "But, thank you for being so honest. I began to think that this might not be a bad thing." Tang Xiaotang's mouth curled up in the curve, and she started squatting with Sun Fei's demonstration. The instrument crunched, accompanied by the ups and downs of her breath, and the sound was like an uncoordinated rhythm. She used sweet words to try to get closer. "Teacher, your eyes are so affectionate, which reminds me of the hot chocolate waterfall. I want to melt your heart with my sweet words." As the voice fell, her body was slightly unbalanced, her feet slid over the slab, and a sound jumped up, and the atmosphere was always awkward. The chatting and laughter around him faded, leaving only the empty buzzing in his ears. Gwen Feifei quickly stretched out his hand and held her arm calmly. His palms were warm and a steady force was brought. Tang Xiaotang's breathing trembled slightly. She raised her head and the eyes of the two met. At that moment, time seemed to slow down, and the golden light of the sun outside the window was emitting a tight movement on them. She took out the candy from her backpack and tore the paper open. The crisp sound was like a sweet overture. "Come on, teach me, eat this, I may help you with some peace." The fragrance of the candy quietly spread and melted into the air, like a clueless bridge beam. "Wait, you will distract me like this." As the vigor of Faye's language softened, his hand relaxed her arm and did not retreat immediately. "Okay, maybe we can try it, but don't touch the equipment again." He had an active response in his words, and the corners of his mouth curled softly. The smile was like a line of sunlight, illuminating Tang Xiaotang's heart. At the end of the course, Tang Xiaotang apologized on a photo, but couldn't help but say another funny sentence: "I really didn't mean it, but your charm is too strong." Her voice was light and there was a little fun to hide. The sound of the footsteps on the floor gradually increased, and she slowly retreated. Gwynfei stood alone and put his horn down. The sound of the collision was like a soft repent, symbolizing the softening of his heart. Outside the window, the sunset faded away gradually, and the fragrance of the grass slipped in from the door, bringing a fresh tail sound. When Tang Xiaotang left, she glanced back and a smile appeared on the corner of her mouth, watching her figure disappear outside the door. His shoulders were relaxed and his posture was like a quiet tree, hidden in the pain of the past. Along the way, a familiar shadow appeared in the campus elementary school, and the jealous student was coming, carrying a difficult-to-see jealousy. Tang Xiaotang accelerated her pace, the candies in her backpack collided lightly, and the sweet fragrance gradually dissipated in the sunset, and her heart was filled with the expectations of a new life. The slut has gone far away, only the sound of the footsteps reverberated in the night, like an unfinished melody, indicating the arrival of more traits. Tang Xiaotang walked along the campus cubicle, and the night quietly covered the cloves and geese had turned into a long echo from the far side. She held her phone tightly, touching the screen with her fingertips, and the warm golden light of the gym was still shining in the sea of her brain. The candy in her backpack collided slightly, reminding her of her previous adventure, and now she decided not to stop this excitement. The rest of the sun faded away, replaced by the soft yellow light of the road light. She accelerated her pace and walked towards the direction of the cafe, thinking that a message might be able to get closer. Arriving at the open-air seat of the cafe, Tang Xiaotang pulled up the chair and sat down. The laughter and the steaming sound of the coffee machine formed a light background. She clicked on the chat interface, danced on the keyboard with her fingers, and entered an invitation to fly and enter a sweet tooth. A crisp notification sound came from the screen. She pressed the sending button and couldn't help but snoring on the corner of her mouth. In the air, the bitter aroma of coffee blends with the refreshing mood of the night, which makes her feel that this moment is particularly real. Not long after, Guard's reply jumped out. In the gym, the collision sound of the bells gradually subsided. He smiled slightly, turned off the light, and the sound of the door clasping sounded clearly. Walking out of the room, the night wind brought the fragrance of the grassland. He walked along the little road, his steps were steady and vigorous. When he arrived at the cafe, Tang Xiaotang had already given him a good amount of dessert and greeted him happily. His figure appeared under the light, his sports shirt tightly tilted his body, reflecting the traces that had just been trained. "Guifei instructor, I know you are always so cool, but your muscles look like you want to match this cake." Tang Xiaotang's voice was lively. She pushed a plate of chocolate cakes and stared at him with bright eyes. "Come and have sweets. This is my secret weapon to bring us closer. I really want to know more about you." Gu Yan pulled open the chair and sat down, raised his eyebrows lightly, and a smile hidden in the corner of his mouth. "Xiaotang, you're always going so far, making me wonder if I should cry or laugh." He picked up the fork and didn't start immediately. "But, well, I'm here, just don't let Tiandian run away anymore. I actually enjoyed these surprises in my heart." His temperament was gentle, and the fork hit the plate lightly, and a slight tingling sound came out. Just as Tang Xiaotang reached out to get another piece of cake, he accidentally knocked over the plate. The chocolate cake was shattered and crisp, and the sounds of the guests around him were coming like waves. The cake was filled with flying sports shirts, and the sweet fragrance of cream instantly spread. Tang Xiaotang was stunned, her fingers froze in the air, and she hurriedly apologized. "I'm sorry. Your clothes are dirty. I didn't mean it. I just wanted to use food to let you see my sincerity. After all, my self-confidence has improved and I want to go deeper into your world." Gunfei looked down at the spots on his shirt, but he didn't show any signs of depression. He picked up a paper towel and wiped it lightly. "It's okay, this little accident reminded me of the past. I once lost an important competition. At that time, I thought I was nothing, but your sincerity made me start to take the initiative to change." His voice was low, accompanied by the guitar strings and the background music, as if a layer of thin fog was opened. Tang Xiaotang was helping her, and the rustling sound of the paper towel rubbing against the fabric. Her hands were rubbing his arms inadvertently, and the touch was rough and warm. The two got closer, and the steam of coffee spiraled around them, bringing a wet heat. Tang Xiaotang tried the picture and atmosphere. "Your eyes are always so deep, as if there are countless stories hidden. I really want to accompany you with my sweet words," she said, hearing the noise far away. A passionate fitness fellow suddenly appeared and patted Gwen Feifei's shoulder. "Wow, Tang Xiaotang, are you seducing the coach again? Gwen Feifei, don't let her go, let's come to the gym challenge together." The words of fellow friends were like a storm, bringing the echo of the slamming echo. Tang Xiaotang's shoulders froze slightly, and his eyes flashed with impatience. He turned around and said, "Next time, I'm a little busy now." But the episode was unexpectedly recommended, and their interactions were even more intense. Tang Xiaotang seized the opportunity. "Gui Fei, thank you for sharing, I will protect you with my sweet words. Our relationship is not just on the surface, right?" Her voice was soft, and the forks on the table collided with the plate, making a light and fast rhythm. The night darkened, the buzzing sound of the road lights became stronger, and the fragrance of the grass flew from the wind. Gwen Fei turned to her. "What about you, Xiaotang? What is your dream?" he asked, his eyes soft. Tang Xiaotang smiled and told her little ambitions, with a scattered laughter in her words. The two laughed while the time seemed to flow slowly, and the sweet buttery fragrance faded in the air, leaving only a spoon. When they got up and left the cafe, they patted Tang Xiaotang on the shoulder lightly. The action brought natural and gentle concern. In the night wind, the leaves were rustling and she glanced back at a familiar shadow far away, the jealous student, who was about to appear. Tang Xiaotang's heartbeat was slightly fury, but she didn't think much about it. She just followed the candies in her backpack rubbed gently, and the sweet fragrance was as sweet as a wire, connecting this new emotion. The yellow light of the road light stretches down their feet, indicating the future waves. Tang Xiaotang walked forward along the night sky, and his flying steps responded quietly beside her. The yellow light of the road light stretched their shadows. The night wind blew over and brought the fragrance of the grass, and her thoughts were finally locked by the familiar silhouette far away. She smiled strongly, pretending that everything was normal, and she couldn't help but relax her steps. Suddenly, a secret low voice came from the darkness, and Tang Xiaotang turned around and glanced at the long-time face. Hidden behind the tree, he looked like a group of Yuyans who didn't want to come by. Her heart beat faster. She reached out to hold Yan Fei's arm, her fingers trembling slightly. Wait, she said, a little uneasy hidden in her voice. The next morning, when the sunlight first appeared, Tang Xiaotang opened the gym door, and the door rose up crisply, like a light and quick wake-up. The sound of the instrument's lenses and the breathing of classmates formed a background. She walked towards the jogging machine and tried to walk the shadow of last night with steady pace. The smell of sweat spreads in the air, reminding her that this is a place of sacredness for power. The student walked away from a distance and deliberately approached the jogging machine to pretend to be hot. His movements were deliberately taken, and his shoulders were slightly raised, and he spoke to his fitness fellows next to him. The private words scattered like a fine rain, and Tang Xiaotang accidentally heard the words and felt nervous. Those words pierced like thorns. There is a secret girlfriend in the air. Her pace became staggering, and the rhythm on the jogger changed from stable to rapid. She jumped off the jogging machine, and the soles of her shoes slammed into the ground, shaking to the floor. She rushed to the locker room, and the jump of the fitness ball and the impact of the bell formed into a messy exchange. Picking up her phone, she flipped on social media. Fake pictures and messages flooded like a tide, her eyes instantly moistened. She wiped her face hard, the rustling sound of the paper towel accompanied by the tearing inside. On the other end, Guardian is directing a student, and the lifting friction sound and his deepest guidance are clearly visible. He glanced at Tang Xiaodong's back, his eyebrows were slightly anaconda. He lowered the bell, and the heavy sound of falling to the ground was heard. He walked over quickly and patted her on the shoulder. "Xiaotang, what's wrong?" His voice was gentle, and he tried to pull her to the side of the uninhabited area. Outside the window, the campus birds' clamor and the thumping sound of the ball from a distance created a tight end. The student came unwillingly and deliberately coughed loudly to attract attention. When he approached, he brought the pungent smell of disinfectant. Tang Xiaotang pushed him open, and the door clasped her hand and she rushed out of the gym. The guest flew and chased, the two ran past the little one, and the fallen leaves rustled under the steps. At the scene, they stopped and Tang Xiaotang gasped, in the background of the student's laughter and the harsh sound of the whistle. The student followed, with a proud curve on the corner of his mouth. "Tang Xiaotang, do you know? The guy who is guarding Fei already has a secret girlfriend. I see it with my own eyes, so don't humiliate yourself anymore. I told you these for your own good." His words were like a sharp sword, stabbing her in her heart. Tang Xiaodong's shoulders were shaking slightly, and she bit her lip, feeling suspicious. "Really? How could a lie? How could a lie? But those photos look so real. I thought he had a feeling for me, so I couldn't tell me that I was laughing again?" Her voice was as delicate as a whisper, and her fingers shook her hand. Ginfei stood in front of her, his eyes fixed, and the protection of his mind spread like a barrier. "Xiaotang, don't listen to that guy nonsense. I don't have a secret girlfriend, those are all fabricated. I like your straightforward personality. I want to protect you and not let mistakes destroy us." His words flowed out slowly, like a warm wind. She raised her head, the light flashed in the corner of her eyes, and took a deep breath to calm her emotions. "Guanfei, are you saying true? If not, then I won't give up. I will prove everything in my way." Her voice calmed down and she touched his arm lightly. When learning does not regress, instead, it increases the plot and picks. Look at Fei, do you think it's enough to say two easy words? Be careful that no matter how good your muscles are, you can't keep her heart." His mockery was as cold as a cold wind, unable to move their distance. As the sun sets, a layer of gold dies on the playground. Tang Xiaotang turns around and flies, his fingers stay on his arm. The gentle touch is like a thread, connecting the hope of the future. The night is deeper, the noise fades away, leaving only their breathing, forming an unfinished melody. Tang Xiaodong's fingers gently clamped his flying wrist, and the touch felt like a warm current, extending all the way along the sunny day's long-lasting game. She took a deep breath, turned the waves in her heart into action, and pulled him along the little one. The horns were in a low voice between the grassland, and the laughter of students from far away was like scattered notes, accompanied by the light and fast pop tunes she hummed, and the pace involuntarily accelerated. They turned into the dormitory area, and on the familiar road, the night was quietly climbing up the trees. Tang Xiaotang opened the kitchen door, and the lights lighted up softly, reflecting the treasures in the refrigerator. She reached out and took out the fresh cream and red strawberries, and her breath was filled with sweet inspiration. The blade cuts into the fruit quickly, and the crisp sounds roar in the small space, accompanied by the rotation of the egg beater, and the rhythm is as clear as a heartbeat. Guyan leaned against the door, with both arms and chest, and his mouth slightly raised, and his smile contained an unexpected softness. "Guifei, come and help me. This is my secret weapon." Tang Xiaotang turned around and blinked, his voice carrying a playful tune. She poured the batter into the baking pan and practiced neatly and skillfully. The oven was rising and the heat was rising. He approached, his shoulders gently rubbed hers, bringing a slight warmth. In the air, the sweetness of the cream is deeper and more intense, as if every breath has brought them closer. Gwen Feifei picked up the mixer. His movements were slightly unfamiliar, with a serious expression, and his fingers knocked lightly around the bowl, making a crisp collision sound. Time was like a dream that passed quietly. When the low buzzing sound of the oven finally stopped, Tang Xiaotang picked up the hot cake and desserts. The fragrance came over her nose, and she flew out of the kitchen and walked towards the chair beside the playground. The sun's glory grew their shadows, and the birds were weak, leaving only the gentle rustle of the wind blowing through the grassland. The two sat down face to face, and she picked up the fork, cut off a piece of cake, and turned to his lips. The fork touched the plate lightly, and a slight tinger was released, instantly frozen into a warm picture. Guai Feizhang tastes. The sweet taste is on the tip of his tongue. After he sniffed, his eyes were flashing, as if he wanted to say something, but he was interrupted by a rapid sound of footsteps. The student walked from afar. His pace was as stiff as a sudden wind, and his appearance brought a wave of uncoordinated tension. Tang Xiaotang stood up, snatched his hands to stop him, and his murmurs overflowed from his mouth, like a roar of unwillingness. She put on the dessert in a model, pretending that it was a mysterious weapon, and the action was so exaggerated that Guardian couldn't help but smile. The laughter was like a clear wind, dissolving the condensation in the air, and the student turned away awkwardly, leaving only a sound of the wind blowing the leaves. Tang Xiaotang sat down again, his eyes closed and his eyes flying affectionately. She grabbed his hand, and the fingertips sent a slight flew, and the hornets intersected with the blurry music in the background to form a low-pitched song. Guai Fei, your muscles are not only strong, but also as attractive as this sweet spot. I really want to bite it down, but now I want to say more. I really like you. This is not a joke. My heart has never matured like this. Her words flowed out like a gentle river, accompanied by the wind falling from the night. Ginfai's breathing suddenly became rapid and his chest was slightly up and down. He held her hand tightly, his eyes as steady as a group of flames. Tang Xiaotang, I have always pretended to be indifferent because I am afraid that I will be beaten by you too soon, but your sincerity is like these sweets, reaching the bottom of my heart. Now I just want to accompany you, protect you, and never escape. His voice was low and steady, like a warm current, wrapping the air around me. The sound of the seniors never comes far away, carrying a jealous sting. Are you two here again? I don't accept it. His words were as cold as a breath of coldness, trying to break this sweet bubble. Tang Xiaotang responded with her head and a touch of chanting appeared on the corner of her mouth. Student, don't be jealous. Keep these sweets for those who are truly worthy. Being aware of flying is my muscle hero. She said, her speech was light and determined, and she used a barrier of humor to protect the secrets of this moment. The student hummed, turned around and disappeared into the night, leaving only the remaining wind. The eyes flew closer and gently pushed her into the trap. The heartbeat was as strong as a rhythmic instrument, and the breathing of the two people formed a soundless meridian. Thank you, Tang Xiaotang, your sweet words always make me laugh and cry, but this time, I will use my actions to prove that my heart belongs to you. He said, with a smile in his voice. After they separated, Tang Xiaotang reached out to wipe the cream from the corner of his mouth, and his movements were as soft as feathers brushed over. The laughter resonates in the night sky, light and pure. She picked up the last bite of sweets, and the two shared the warmth, and walked along the campus elementary school. The starry sky shines with the night sky, and the lights in the gym are far away, as if they are quietly suggesting future life. The wind is filled with the freshness of the grass, and the pace is slow and slow. The world seems to be left with only their breathing and the echo of their heartbeat. Tang Xiaotang and Ginfai walked along the campus primrose, and the touch of fingers that seemed to extend the remaining temperature of last night. The morning light gradually dyed the trees, and the fresh dew breathed in the air. Their steps were light and fast, carrying a lot of expectations. When the gym door was in sight, she pushed it hard, and the crisp sound of the door was like a welcome greeting, swaying in the morning light. The lights in the room illuminated, reflecting the dessert table, fresh cakes and inviting chocolates, Next to them were quiet metal equipment, as if they were whispering past points. Gufei followed her in, smiling on his lips. He closed the door lightly, and the door clicked and then began to arrange the party. The color belt slid across his fingertips, and the air ball rubbed gently in the air, making a slight scratching sound. Tang Xiaotang couldn't help but giggle. She grabbed a microphone and turned on the background music player. The fast pop songs fill the room, and the rhythm beats like a heartbeat, opening the prelude to this party. She turned around, her eyes flashing with a thrilling light, and she pulled his hand around. "Gui Fei, your muscles are not only beautiful, but also make me want to take a bite every time I see them." Tang Xiaotang jumped onto a fitness equipment. When she was on the temporary stage, the slab jumped under her feet, making a light and fast sound. She imitated the past confession, and made a bite with her hands, and a slim twitching at the curve of the corner of her mouth. In the room, the roommates and enthusiasts sat around, and the crispy crack sound of tearing the sweets packaging in their hands added to the heat. Guinfei sat aside, his shoulders trembled slightly, and a soft wave of light surged in his eyes. He stood up and patted her on the shoulder, the touch was warm and solid. The palm and cries came like waves. He turned on the photo projector, and the buzzing sound spread out on the wall with light and shadow. In the photo, Tang Xiaotang's masking muscle moment was frozen on the screen, and the giggling sounds of the audience formed a memorable song. The softening eyes of Yan Fei's eyes seemed to have scars in the heart when those pictures were exposed. "Xiaotang, your sweet words always make me laugh and cry, but they have cured my inner loneliness. Thank you, for making me become like this open self now. We openly become a match, which is the best ending." His words were low, like a warm wind, brushing through the room. Tang Xiaotang picked up a piece of cake and knocked on the plate with a fork, making a crisp sound. She turned to Gufei's lips and he tasted it. The sweetness of the cream and the sourness of the strawberry were placed on the tip of her tongue. The supporting characters, the horny twinkle roommate shared the story, and the poisonous-tongued roommate talked, "You two are so sweet that my teeth are sore. Xiaotang, don't just mass your muscles next time, and teach me how to conquer people's hearts with sweets." His lingering charming spikes caused a light smile. The enthusiastic fellow continued, "Instructor, from the day you came to the gym, we knew that Xiaotang would eat you. This party was great, keep going, your romance made us want to go to the gym." His words were inspired, accompanied by the sound of the gym ball rolling, and he was singing in the room. The party reached orgasm. Tang Xiaotang pulled up the flying hand, and the floor stomped under their feet, perfectly blending with the rhythm of music. They danced funny dances between the instruments, and their figures swayed in the flashes of the colorful lights. The audience clapped and shouted like a tide, marking the circle of this relationship. Her movements were acknowledged, and he followed her eyes filled with gentle joy, and he recycled those sweet words of silly words, those jokes that once were now turned into real promises. As the music faded away, the guest flew open his arms and pushed her into the storm. The soft sound of clothes rubbing like whispering, and their breathing and intercourse brought a comfortable warmth. While cleaning the desktop, Tang Xiaotang picked up the paper towel and wiped the desserts. The slight scratch sound accompanied by the final chat. "Gui Fei, our funny story ends here, but our sweet life just begins. Are you okay to bite every bite of life together?" she said, her voice quickly and firm. He held her hand tightly, his eyes as deep as morning light, and his head was filled with sweet words. "Okay, Xiaotang, as long as you are there, I will be willing to do anything. We will exercise together, laugh together, and spend every day together." They walked out of the gym hand in hand, sunshine filled the little one, and finally shared the sweets on their lips. The birds' crisp chirping sounds came from afar, as if in the humble ending of this journey. Those sweet words that once lived not only passed, but also led to the future path. Their backs blend into the campus scenery, leaving behind an eternal sweet rest.